And welcome to the Refined Peasants. And today we're going to be discussing whether you should or should not judge people on having kids. My position is no, we shouldn't judge people who have kids. Garrett?
Judge people who have kids or who don't have kids?
Like, I do not judge people if they decide not to have children.
I guess either way. But, yeah, I think ideally you should be having children.
What?
I don't care if you have kids. It's whatever. I don't care.
Alright.
I would say some of you don't need to have kids.
That's, you know...
That's how the last one started. So...
Yeah, sorry, we've had to do this like a few times because this one here can't say...
They don't like how I talk. So, Garrett, why should we judge people who decide not to have kids?
So, I don't know that judging people for not having kids is the right way. So, obviously, if you can't have kids for whatever reason, I'm not going to judge you for that. Like, if you are, for whatever reason, you're a male who can't produce children or a female who can't birth children, I'm not going to judge you for that. I'm saying when you make a choice as a married couple or as preferably a married couple, to not have children, it is detrimental to society for you to do that.
Like in what ways is it detrimental?
So it's kind of a difficult thing to explain to people who don't have kids. But when you have kids, your entire perspective on the world kind of changes. So before you have kids, it's a lot about like what's best for me right now, and even in like what's best for my own life long term. When you have kids, it ceases to be that, and it starts to be what is best for my kids right now, what is best for my kids long term. It starts making you more future oriented, and it makes you think beyond the scope of your own life, which I think is a good thing for society. For people to think beyond the scope of their own life.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, I should say that I don't disagree with you, that I think it's a good thing for people to think past themselves.
Right, past their own lifespans.
Right. I don't disagree that that's a very important thing that we've kind of failed at. But I don't think you need kids to think that.
Well, you don't need kids. Some people don't need kids. But
I'll just say this: not all parents deserve kids, but all kids deserve parents. Does that make sense?
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I could.
There are for sure parents who don't deserve their children. I mean, you just turn on your local news and any given day of the week, and you're probably going to see someone who doesn't deserve their kids.
I'll give you an example. We had a kid at a daycare get picked up, and the mother was out of her mind on drugs.
Yeah.
And took that kid home. And I know legally you can't keep a kid from their parent, but you can at least call the cops.
Right, and you should.
Like,
I think the responsible thing there is to this child.
Like when she's slurring her words, can't even keeps dropping the money to pay you, and you maybe call the cops. Maybe call somebody that they're clearly not fit to take care of the kid.
Right. And I would. So that's kind of the thing is. So I'm sure we're going to get into it, but like unfit parents. I think the solution isn't for unfit parents to not have children. I think it's for unfit parents to become fit parents and then have children. Like, so, if you have if you're a drug addict, I think the best case scenario is for you to get clean and have kids, not to stay in your drug habit and never have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the ideal solution for me. And I do think that the world is better with reproducing family units. Like, if nothing else, just the biological factor. Like, this is how life has worked since the dawn of life. Maybe not family units like primates do, but reproduction is fundamental.
That is the animal instinct in your brain. You eat, survive, and then you reproduce, and eventually you die. Your goal is to pass on your traits, your favorable traits, to your kids, and then your kids do the same. That's how...
Right, but with humans, it's something more than that, too, because we have the ability to perceive that there is a time beyond right now. So most animals can't perceive that there is a future. Like, most animals don't plan for a future. That's mammals. True. Mammals mostly can plan for. So, like, chipmunks will store for winter, knowing that there is a future where
food's
gonna be scarce.
Cats know when they're close to death.
Well, animals knowing when they're close to death isn't like they're just much more in tune with their own bodies than humans are, and that's because of this part of our brain.
Yeah, we just have a higher consciousness. Like we can understand.
You ever hear like the old people like that know they're gonna die? They're like, yeah, gonna happen.
Well, when you get to 85, it's kind of a betting game, you know. Like, yeah, probably gonna die in the next 5 years. Like probabilities being what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But so you just strictly don't care then, Wyatt? You're like, nope, have kids, don't have kids. You don't have any opinion on it.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't think
you should judge people for not wanting to have kids, though.
it's a personal decision.
I feel like this is going to be mostly on me defending my own position.
It is.
Well, that's
Well, you
okay.
could question us about ours. I mean, I don't
care.
So why is it?
Why is it so drilled into our heads that you should have kids?
Well, because I mean, so
Like, it seems-
biological urges, obviously, but then also like the society you exist in, whether it's America or China or Russia or wherever, like the dependence of your own society on you reproducing is pretty drastic. Like if everyone in America stopped having kids, then America, as a society, would die out.
In a generation.
Yeah, a generation or two, maybe.
But you have to get everyone in America to stop having kids. And
Right,
let
which
me
is
tell you,
not what we're talking about,
the-
but that's why I'm saying it's so drilled into you, is because like we need people in the future to operate this society. So there's only one way to create people at this point, is to make babies.
I still feel like people would realize this and still make babies.
So, but we're not, like, as of right now, the West is under replacement value.
Yeah.
And we've been under replacement value for, like, a decade at this point, I think. Maybe longer. So, our population is shrinking because people aren't having as many kids. More people are holding off on having kids until either it's too late or...
It's never too late to have kids.
Well, no, like
Yeah.
biologically.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end
Like-
of like 50.
No, so
then-
like girls, it's harder past like once they reach like 30, right? I mean, they can.
So-
it's totally possible.
No,
Right, so,
so-
35 is the new...
So- I know what you're talking about. So the studies that say I've seen women in 40s get pregnant easily.
Okay.
So
There are outliers.
The 35 you hear of is from French peasants during a plague.
Yeah, he's watched Adam Ruins Everything. I've seen that one
I've
too.
seen
No, I haven't.
studies. It's completely possible.
You
Now,
get-
the rate, the percentages is still off. Your
Well,
body's
so-
more fertile in the young. You're more fertile in like at 16 than you are in your 20s.
Which explains teenage pregnancies.
Like we are
but-
most fertile late teens, really early 20s.
Right.
Once you teeter near like 26 and on, it's kind of a guessing game.
Right. It's a little bit more difficult to
The
get pregnant.
percentages start to tip in the favor of something else.
Well, and so that's the other thing too, is like beyond 35 you have a higher risk of certain birth defects too. So like your body, I'm not a doctor, so don't get me lying to you, but this is just what I've heard having my daughter. Like past 35 it is not only more difficult to get pregnant, but you have a higher chance of getting birth defects and so on.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the reason we're waiting so long to have kids is because it's kind of pretty hard to have kids in the West. Like, everything's so freaking expensive.
Yeah, financially.
Well, so there are countries where people are very, very poor and they don't have a problem having kids.
Well, the wealth gap is smaller. So everyone's kind of like, everyone's poor.
So it's the
So it's
wealth
not-
gap's fault that we're not having kids. Because
mean,
I would say
kind of.
if it's a money problem, then poor people should not outproduce rich people or out-reproduce rich people, which is exact opposite. Like poor out out-reproduce rich people
That's a
hugely.
better
Mhm.
check. Get more money from the government.
Oh, the welfare state does subsidize children, but that's not here. That's neither here nor there. I think rich people have so they have greater access to birth control. So there are free manners of birth control, like condoms, which are 99% effective. But the rich people have more options to other things as well.
So the thing is, birth control.
And I shouldn't even say rich. I should say like anybody who has like a job.
Yeah, like birth control is really cheap. To me, it should be free. Insurance should cover it. It's the same as like
Insurance does cover a lot of it.
Depends on the type of birth control. It's weird. I feel like all birth control should be free.
I mean, I know my insurance covered it.
Yeah.
So
It's an insurance thing. It's weird. It's like some insurance cover one prescription, not another. It's weird.
well, it's kind of like so. I don't think like Plan B, the Plan B pill should not be a manner of birth control. That's
Why not?
oh, I thought you were stopping it on me, and I was like, well, because Plan B is ending an already federalized cell. But we're gonna get into. I don't want to get into abortion right now because we'll just end up screaming at each other.
We'll end up, me and him.
Yeah, Wyatt will just enjoy the show.
Wyatt might go to sleep.
But
Potentially. But okay, so I think honestly, people put kids on too high of a pedestal. And what I mean,
Now, I'm suddenly on Team Garrett. I think
No,
kids
no, no.
are arguably the most important thing
No, they are.
we can
so
raise.
I think we've all been on an airplane, and as soon as you see a baby, that collective
Oh, son of a bitch,
collective eye roll could get the plane halfway down the runway. And like, listen, if it's not your kid, you hate the kid.
Nick. Okay, that may be just you.
that might just be you.
No. So
No,
okay.
look, I get it. Some people legitimately don't like kids. That's fine. But I'm just saying, I also know people who love all kinds of kids.
Oh, no,
Like, they'll just see a kid and they'll be like, "Oh my god, that's it's
like,
typically women." I won't.
No,
lie.
like,
They just love.
Well, that's just more
love-
of the mother. Like so, like kids too. Like my wife. If we show up to a house where there's small children, they will just flock to her.
Yeah.
And it's because I swear kids can smell the mom.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens.
But anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's probably just a you thing.
No, I like all types of kids.
Are there different types of kids, Nate?
I mean, yeah. So like family members, and then friends, and then like.
Oh, I was trying to bait him, but he didn't fall for it. Why?
I know what you were trying to do.
Good, Nick.
Yay.
Give him a cookie.
Yeah.
But
I deserve a cookie. So
yeah, some kids are annoying.
yeah, and
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think-
yeah.
that's fair.
So like I think you agree when your daughter got bit at daycare, you probably wanted to wring a kid's neck.
I was very upset with that child. Like, and obviously, our daycare doesn't tell you which kid bit the kid.
They legally can.
No, that's and I understand that, but like, I was very upset that someone bit my daughter.
Yeah.
That seems rational. Like,
No, that's fair. But like,
I would be pretty upset if I found out somebody stabbed one of you guys. Like, if someone bit one of you, I would just wonder what kind of fun you were having. But
nice. So I think so. Yeah. So kids make me laugh. Like, you can have fun with kids and stuff, but like, what are the pros and cons to having kids?
I mean, so when you don't have kids, you can make. So I'm not going to be able to make this argument. Is what I'm about to explain. When you don't have kids, you can make a pro-con list of having kids. When you do have kids, it is all pro. Like, there is nothing about having a kid that I don't enjoy. So they consume a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of your time. But it's worth it. Like, I still think that's... So, like, work consumes a lot of your time, but it's still a net gain to your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really don't... I can't think of anything that isn't... Even if it's work, and it's hard work, and it's time-consuming work.
So not even the financial.
No, I think every bit of it's worth it.
So
And honestly, having a child isn't... So, if you breastfeed, buying formula is incredibly expensive. Way too expensive, in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, you can get into, like, manufacturing formula is difficult because it's very strictly monitored, and it should be.
Yeah, it has to be.
But buying formula is crazy expensive. But other than that, having a kid isn't terribly expensive. Now, my wife and I have been very blessed, so I can't speak for everybody on that. But it hasn't detrimentally affected our financial situation.
So
at all.
I think kids aren't expensive until they get older. Sports get expensive.
They don't have to be, though. Like, so you don't have... I mean, so you're going to have to buy... Let's say they play baseball. You're going to have to buy a new glove every 2 years.
A new glove.
Ish, yeah.
A new glove. Bat. Cleats about every...
You don't have to buy a new bat every year.
Not every year, but cleats.
I mean, you'd have to buy, I think, like, different little leagues. Like, you'll have to transition to different kinds of bats.
You gotta buy
cleats you'll probably have to buy every
different
year.
jerseys depending on the team.
Yeah, but the jerseys are only like $25 a piece.
Depending. Traveling. If you're on a travel team.
Yeah, with gas where it's at. That
Not just gas, like, you gotta pay to go. Say you're going to California.
But, so, see, all those sports are voluntary, though.
Yeah. But, like, say your kid goes into a travel team. That is stupid expensive.
But that is also a choice. Right?
So it's
like sending your kid to a private school.
Is it a choice on you or the kid?
So I think most parents would be like, I want my kid to be able to play whatever they want. So it would be like, the kid wants to play, then I'm going to make it happen.
Like, it's...
So, what if a parent comes, or what if, I guess not a parent, what if a person comes to the conclusion that they don't want kids? Like, they weigh all the positives and the negatives and stuff. No, you know what? It's just not for me.
Then I think they're being selfish.
Why?
So I think in that situation, when they're weighing out pros and cons, they're going to look at how it detrimentally affects their life to have children. And as opposed to taking that responsibility and accepting it and...
It's only a responsibility for you.
Gaining
have kids.
You're good.
And getting the net positive that comes on the other side of it. You're going to choose yourself. So, I already said that having a child is really time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to choose, I would rather spend my time the way I want and not helping raise a future generation. Does that make sense?
So just because you physically don't raise a kid,
you
can still, like, raise a kid.
So
like,
there's a couple exceptions. So like if you take like, look, I'm not going to have my own kids, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go volunteer down at an orphanage as a big brother or a big sister. All right? Good. You know, I think your responsibility is to help raise the next generation, but the problem is most people aren't doing that. Like when most people say I don't want to have kids, they're not going to be like, well, then I'm going to take this free time I have and go volunteer with other children. They're like, no, I'm just going to take this free time I have and do whatever the fuck I want selfishly for whatever I want for my life.
People have hobbies.
With no thought to...
Isn't that the whole idea of America, though?
Yeah, so I'm not saying we should throw you in jail if you choose not to have kids. I'm saying that I think you are making a selfish decision.
I don't think so.
Could it not be said that you're making a selfish decision by having kids, though? Not you specifically, obviously.
No, but like
a person.
Your only
chooses
reasoning
to
is
kids.
to, because let's be honest, people don't care about the future generation. They don't.
No, you see, you can't. No.
Garrett, who's the first people that old people blame for how the world is?
Young people.
Which is what, the next generation. You know, I got blamed. My generation got blamed while I was in middle school. Stuff I couldn't even change with how the world was running. I was in middle school.
We got blamed that the gays could get married. I don't know.
I
think that's what I think that's what he's saying.
Like I personally got blamed. My generation got blamed. We were in middle school and it's like I'm not even in the position to do anything about it, and people were blaming my generation.
Well, so that's the kind of... Blaming a generation is kind of weird because you have people like... So there are members of your generation who would have been at the time like 18. Just like there's millennials, like I'm a millennial. There's millennials who are like 40, and then I'm 29. You know what I'm saying? Like, a generation is a pretty big...
My generation is from 99 to 03.
I think that's too short. But...
Yeah, I think that's too short. Don't get me. I'm not.
I don't know the full generation.
The person
my generation isn't big. We were not in positions of power to make laws that we were getting blamed for. And
I think what you're saying was blamed on you was probably being blamed on us. Was being blamed on me.
No. They blamed not millennials. My generation, whatever
Gen
we are.
Z.
Gen Z, Gen X. I don't know what we are. They blamed us, and I was like, okay, that's stupid.
I don't think that means people don't care about the future.
Millennials get a lot of flack, too.
They do. You guys really do.
Well, millennials were a weird thing because we existed like in between. So like I remember a phone that couldn't travel more than this far.
Mm-hmm.
I remember dial-up internet. I remember like I remember when libraries were still a thing. Like you still had to go to your public library. And then I remember in like middle school the internet just swooped in and changed the whole fucking game. Like I remember Nintendo 64 and I now own a PS5. Like there's a huge...
I went from Nintendo 64 to Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
This is what you went to.
Yeah.
But
But I don't think the generational thing, it really has any bearing because, like, so the problem is as you get older, we're always going to be biased towards times we grew up in. Like, so I'm always going to think that I did a better job than the person after me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, things were better even if they weren't. So, like, the greatest generation that went through the Great Depression, a lot of them would have been like, well, things were better back then. It's like, really, when people were in breadlines? Like, was it really better back then? When penicillin wasn't a thing, was it really better back then? You know what I'm saying? But people are just biased to the things they grew up with because they're nostalgic for it, and
I remember.
it doesn't necessarily, member berries. And I don't think that that's necessarily the truth. Now, sometimes it's true.
I think it's
so sometimes it's true that the new Star Wars is shit, and the old Star Wars is better. But that's not.
Fair. That's fair.
That is not always the case, and most of the time people are just nostalgic for the time they grew up.
I think most older people, they don't like change. We as humans don't like change.
I mean, that's true.
So I think that's why the older generation always like, oh, the younger generation. Because how many times that's like, my music sucks, and I'm like, my music is what they listened to in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And it's like you hear like these new generation kids' music when they listen to what their parents said was their new generation kids' music sucked. It's just how it goes. Time changes, old people get mostly mad because the times that they grew up in, like you said, they believe was the best time to be alive, is now gone.
Well,
It's in its twilight years and it's gone. Like fashion, music, all entertainment, all that's changed, and they'd rather go back to the good old days.
I would say Nick made a good point earlier. I don't think we care about the future generations, at least not in America. Like, I just don't. We're too much about us.
Yeah,
too much about now.
So too selfish.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, this isn't like a one generation thing. This is kind of like what happens when you breed this kind of culture. Just kind of what happens.
Yeah, we're very materialistic.
Well, no. Other countries are materialistic, but like we're like so individual, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing.
I mean, so there are downsides to an individualistic society.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't...
So my other thing is, so even if you have kids, you get judged on having kids because you didn't raise them the right way.
Well, so anyone who judges, like, so you shouldn't judge another parent on how they raise their kids. Like, that is their opinion.
I don't think that. I think on most cases, yeah, but there's some ways you can definitely judge a parent on how they raise.
Well, so if you've got a 7-year-old who's obese, I'm going to judge you for that because that's not that kid's fault. That's your fault as a parent. Like, you raised an overweight child because you're feeding that child junk. And like, I understand if you're impoverished, like, just cheap food is often not the healthiest. So like, there's it's a lot of gray. You know what I'm saying? But if you're like a middle class family and you have a fat 7-year-old, like, that's all you. That's because you won't step up and tell your child, no, you can't have this box of Twinkies for dinner.
Or
you know what I'm saying?
At least some exercise.
I think to me that's you're just kind of, I don't want to fight them. Yes, just let them have ice cream for dinner. Like, no, your responsibility as a parent is to raise the best child for the future.
And listen, most parents,
and prepare them adequately for
most
that.
parents are flying by the seat of their pants.
Dude, that's facts.
Like
100%.
Most parents don't know what the clue they're doing until like child 3.
And you're gonna question. No, even well, I've only got the one right now, but like I question everything. So like discipline. Like, so my daughter is pretty young. I don't know where the line for discipline is. So, you know, timeouts don't really work. She started like hitting when she's upset or throwing tantrums, and I'm like, I don't know how to. Like, how do this is not throwing a tantrum because you're not getting what you want is not appropriate behavior. But how do I discipline that behavior in order to teach her
without going overboard?
Right, because she can't talk yet more than just simple words. And so I don't think spanking is the appropriate, because I was spanked as a kid. I'm probably going to spank my kids when the situation dictates it.
Yeah. Pro spanking, like.
Right. But I don't think this is the appropriate situation for that, because she can't use her words yet.
So I think.
So it's kind of like you're going to double think all of your decisions as a parent and wonder if it's best, and I think that's right and appropriate. You know what I'm saying?
To go on with you, so also I don't think as young as they are, they don't comprehend mentally what they did wrong. So some people compare it like, a puppy knows what it is wrong, and the difference is a puppy grows up faster because it has to. That's how it survives. It's like a horse it's born and it starts running. It does that because of evolution. It has to.
Right.
People
much
people are like,
brain development happens.
They're like, you can spank your child at 1 because they know. I'm like, no, they don't. They don't know. They barely know words. And they'll say words like no, yes. They don't really know what those mean yet. They can kind of guess.
No. I mean, my daughter for sure knows what no means, because the dogs we have will come up and like lick her in the face, and she loves the dogs, but she hates when they get in her face. Like, she'll point her face and say no. So she knows what no means. It means stop what you're doing, right? But I would for the most part, I would agree with you. Like
they don't fully comprehend yet.
Right. If I told her don't jump off the cellar, she does not understand that full range of thought.
No, she knows no, and that's it.
Right. I guess we're kind of off in the weeds about parenting now. But so there are for sure people who are irresponsible parents. But being an irresponsible parent, I don't necessarily think means you should not have been a parent. I think it means you should stop making irresponsible decisions and be a better person, and then be a parent. Or if you are already a parent making irresponsible decisions, you should cut the shit.
Well, who gets to decide what is and what isn't responsible?
Well, so we already have laws on the books for child endangerment and stuff like that. Child negligence and whatnot.
Yeah, but that's like locking your kid in a closet, like shitting and pissing on him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to go pretty far.
Like, that's pretty no-no. I mean, to get...
Well, now, so like even in Oklahoma, you can get a ticket. Like if I smoke in a car with Katie in it, I can get a ticket for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be quiet, you should.
Yeah, that's
I don't smoke around my kids. I try not to let her see it, even because I don't want her picking up that habit from me. Smoking's a bad habit. It's really hard to quit.
Yeah.
Don't get me smoking on another day. But I think I think it is having more parents in society, more responsible, and for the most part, I think even they're going to be parents that raise their kids with different philosophies. So there's going to be parents who are absolutely no corporal punishment. We're going to do timeouts and we're going to do this, that, or the other, and they can raise kids just fine. Mm-hmm. They got perfectly functioning members of society. And I think that's really the measure of a parent, is like, how well do your kids function without you? Once they're out of the nest.
That's not always a parental decision. So like, you can raise your kid the best you can, but they might turn to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Well, so that's another thing too, is eventually your kids become adults and are responsible for their own decisions. Mm-hmm. And so me and my wife have talked about this, but there are grown-ass people who look back and is like, granted, they've had a hard life. Okay, I've known a few of them, wife's known a few of them, where they were mistreated in their family or they didn't have the best home life. But I have seen people come out of that situation and shine, and I've seen people come out of that situation and crash. Mm-hmm. And that's just what you're made of as a person, I guess. Like, that comes down to your own decision making. Like, honestly, at the age of 25, you are no longer, like, at some point you are responsible for your own goddamn decision making. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like the 25-year-old who becomes Jeffrey Dahmer, that is not the parents' fault. Like, you chose to go kill and eat people.
What is the first people look at? Is like, well, how was he raised? The first thing they
I'm not
look at
saying-
is the parents. And it's like, well, the parents did exactly what they're supposed to do. They raised him told him to get a job, told him this is how society works, and he just decided that killing and eating people was something he wanted to do.
Right, psychopaths are a little different because that's a brain.
We don't know what makes
thing.
them tick. Like, officially, we have no idea what makes a psychopath.
Yeah, what makes them lack empathy and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, looking at somebody's background is probably an appropriate place to start out for anything. You know, you find a murderer, you want to look at the background and see, or you find honestly, I don't think that it should change. Like, so if you've got a rapist and it turns out they were raped as a child, like, okay, it makes it more understandable, I guess, but no less unforgivable. Like, just because you were molested as a kid does not mean you get to go on and molest kids into the future. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it makes it, you know, maybe you were a victim, but then you also created more victims. That's not okay. That's not, you know.
So, I'm still trying to wrap my head. How is it selfish not to have kids?
Because I think it's the definition of selfishness. Because you're choosing your own wants and desires over.
What if you got like a wife and like you both just decided, I don't want kids? You know, let's just live. Let's just live a little.
I think you're both being selfish. I think you're choosing your own selfish wants and desires over. And again, this is not people who can't have kids. This is people who can and choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than raising a future generation that society depends on. I think it's selfish.
How?
Like, they can still be role models and benefit society in
But
other ways.
but no.
Was George Washington
most
selfish?
most people who decide not to have kids are not also going off and being role models and
It's like George
you
Washington
can just
selfish
lead
because
by-
not having kids?
You can just lead by example.
I mean probably, yeah. I would say so.
George Washington is selfish for not having
I think
kids.
Martha Washington had problems with carrying children though. So again, that's lumped into the group of like can't have kids. Again, I'm not going to judge you if for whatever biological reason you cannot have
I'm just
children.
saying, like, you can benefit this country in different ways.
Yeah, like
I mean, you can. But
What
most
about-
people don't.
What about like a military man who decides he doesn't want to have kids? Is he selfish?
Is he married?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though he's serving this country, he is a selfish man.
Not a selfish man, but he's making a selfish decision.
well, plenty of people make selfish decisions. That doesn't make you selfish.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So what makes you so selfish for not wanting to have kids, though?
Well, so I'm not saying that you're. So I guess I would say
think-
you're making a selfish decision doesn't make you a selfish person. So
Mhm.
you are making a selfish decision not to have kids. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a selfish person. I would have to look at overarching decisions you've made through your life. But like we still judge people for making selfish decisions, even if they're not selfish people. So, what's a good example here? Man, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. I was trying to think of like, so, you see a person, drowning in a lake. And you choose because there's a good, and this is true, like there's a good probability if you go in to save them, they might drown you too. Because they're just frantic at this point. They might pull you under trying to basically climb you out of the water. Mm-hmm. So you say, nope, not gonna go in there and save that person because I might drown.
There's other
Gonna
factors
just let
to
them
it.
drown.
There's other factors to it.
No,
too.
just hang on.
We'll go with your hypothesis or your little scenario.
Yeah, this is.
So you
that is still a selfish decision in my mind. You should have tried to save that person.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not necessarily mean you're a selfish person in general, like broadly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I still can judge. Like,
But
I
I
can still
don't-
look at you and be like, man, you could have tried to save that guy.
I don't see the parallel between having kids and saving a drowning person.
So
Because the kid isn't even birthed yet. It's not like you have kids and you're just tossing them aside. The decision is, before you have kids, like, do I want to bring a child into this world? And if you come to no, I mean, like, that's fine.
So if you decide that you don't want to bring a child into this world, it is probably because either A...
Well, we shouldn't assume anyone's motives, right?
No, I'm just going to throw these out there. I wouldn't assume any single person's motives, but broadly speaking, I would assume it is either A, fiscal. You don't want to spend the money. Or B, you don't think this is an appropriate environment to be raising kids. The thing is, if it's B, the only way to fix that is to raise a generation that makes it more appropriate for raising children.
It's going to take them generations to do it. They're not.
But the only thing is, like, you gotta participate in it getting better.
You know how that
Society only
won't work. You know how that won't work. There's a certain group of people in politics say that no change, no progress. We're not allowed to.
Everything's conservatives' fault.
Yeah.
He said it. He said it. He said it.
Yep, I sure did.
Garrett, how many conservatives do you know that say, maybe we should take care of this earth? Maybe we should make sure companies aren't.
I think we should take care of the earth.
Name me a politician that says it. That actually says and actually puts bills into place that actually punishes companies for dumping their waste into drinking water.
Well, this is a decent segue into what I was going to ask. Do we have other societal obligations?
Well, before we get to this, so
he's not done shitting on conservatives.
No.
Give him a minute.
Are the people who decided not to have kids when they put lead in gasoline selfish?
Say that again.
So the people who decided not to have kids at the time they put lead in gasoline selfish. Because when we put lead in gasoline...
I must be having a brain misfire. Because I just don't... Go and explain.
So when we put lead in gasoline, it had the most effect on climate ever. This isn't debate. Climate people agree that when we put lead in gasoline, it affected the planet the worst out of anything in history.
Okay.
It made people dumber. It gave them health effects. It's terrible. It was a terrible time to be alive. And this is also the time where we started putting cages outside of windows to let your baby have fresh air. I'm convinced if we never put lead in gasoline, we wouldn't have pet rocks. You can literally...
What time period is this?
Oh, late.
You can just give me a century.
Early 1900s.
Okay.
So
early 20th.
So right as
I've seen the baby. I've seen the window cages.
The cars are a thing. Okay. I think late 1910s, 20s.
That's what I was asking because you said gasoline, and I was like, okay, so this is recent.
This isn't recent.
Well, I didn't know if it was about the same time as all the smoking science came out.
But
I don't know.
And you can look
60s-ish.
You can look at charts and know what kids were affected by lead gasoline because we got dumber.
IQ is a hard thing to track because of
we got less intelligent.
We're getting less intelligent now. Does that mean there's still lead in gas?
Fuck, there might be.
It's called unleaded.
But if there's unleaded, that means there's what?
There was lead when they pumped it out.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well,
by definition, if there's an unleaded option, there is also a.
No. There is no lead. At least not in America. There is no lead option for gasoline because it's illegal.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Because we found out. Yeah.
So I don't think it would be.
But it was a lot cheaper. To
do
it that way. So I think that's what he's asking. Was it cheaper to knowingly pump
I guess
bad gas?
So I can look at this.
So is that your question? Is it selfish
that I look at the world and say, man, I don't know if I want to bring someone into this crappy, crummy world.
Yes.
Really, even if it's gonna. So, lead and gasoline. I decide to have a kid. That kid has a multiple of health problems. May not live long a life.
If that's the case, then at any period in history, you could have looked at a single thing and been like, no, this makes it where I don't want to have kids. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a selfish decision because, again, I think the only hope we have to make anything better is through future generations.
Never happened.
But you could do that.
It has happened.
But
it literally has happened.
But you don't have to... you don't have to have kids to do that, do you?
You don't have to.
I mean, you can inspire change.
You can.
And to be
But,
honest
like,
with you,
handful.
having
ever.
your own kids isn't really going to change anything.
Like,
At the end of the day, you're going to have to change the hearts and minds of like millions.
Like, look at the gay movement. They don't have kids, and look what all they changed. Now they can get married.
Well, that's because society just became more tolerant in general. Like, more of a live and let live society through. Oh my gosh, having kids who had, gay uncles, gay aunts, who just became more tolerant being raised around.
So I think we should keep doing the live and let live. Like,
Again,
someone
not
not having
saying we
kids.
throw people in jail for not having kids. I'm just saying when I see people who sit down and say, no, I choose me over future generations, that is a selfish decision.
But what if they're not? They can still benefit the future generations.
I'm not saying they can't benefit. That's not what I'm saying.
But then they wouldn't be choosing themselves over future generations, right?
But you're still calling them
So
selfish.
like if they were like a job creator, a worker, manufacturer, a plumber, like whatever, like that's still like helping society. Period.
So yes, being a productive worker is being a productive member of society. But what you're doing right now, most often, is not... Like, my job right now is not influencing the future.
I'd argue no. Technology is the future. Your job is programming, which programs the future, so yes, it is.
I think he's saying that you could... So, like, Gary could be replaced tomorrow, and it would have no effect on the future, versus if he went away tomorrow in the context of his job there. But in the context of his household, right, Katie would be affected for her life, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's
So
what he's
I'm not
saying.
saying... Again, I'm not saying that you can't be, like, productive for the... I'm not saying you can't help the future...
But if you don't
without
have
having kids. But I think having kids is one. I think it makes people better people. That is definitely not always the case. There are some people who have kids and absolutely nothing about them changes, and they still remain shitbags. I've got a couple of examples of those in my life. But
you're the no. I'm not gonna try and do it tersenally type. But you're like the first person I know who'll send me articles like, look at these kids. They're non-binary, whatever their gender is, and you're like, look at this is so many. Like what?
Well,
What?
so raising your kids to think they're non-binary, I think is so. And this is just me, but I don't want to get too far off in the weeds here. But like telling, like a kid doesn't know the difference. Like a 5-year-old doesn't know the difference between a boy and a girl. Like they're just a kid. So if a 5-year-old says, "No, I'm really non-binary. I don't identify as either," then it's like no, that's just something the parent has taught you.
I'll agree with that, but I disagree with that they don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. Like, our nephew definitely knows the difference between a boy and a girl. He may not comprehend it yet, not until he hits puberty, but he definitely knows the difference. Now, I agree that, like, we shouldn't be teaching kids that they're non-binary and this and that. And I think let them make the decision when they're
If I asked
adult.
Wade what... Oh. Damn.
What is?
Yeah, if I asked him what a girl was, he would have no idea.
Well, he couldn't probably physically tell you, but he can be like, he can point someone like, that's a girl. And he'd be like, who's a boy? That's a boy. He knows the physical features that make us different.
There's no way. I mean, besides long hair at that age, there's not really
How you dress.
a physical difference.
How you dress. I'm saying, like, they definitely know.
I don't think so.
But, like...
They definitely don't know.
And it's again, I'm going to do this again, it's a particular group of political people who blame parents on the other side. And the other side,
yeah, because
the other side,
definitely just
other side does it too, just not as fucking much. The one side,
really,
the one side does it so much that they think that the other side is trying to take over the world when they're not. Like, you know how many times I've heard, like, they're trying to teach this sort of theory at my school, and it's like, well, that was a teacher, and that was once. They're doing it in all high schools. No. Like, they're great at blowing things out of proportions. The other side's just good at blowing.
If I were... We're not going to get into it, because that would just take over this entire podcast with how wrong you fucking are. So, back to the main point. What?
Garrett, you yourself have said that you're teaching this sort of theory in all high schools.
Okay, we're just going to take over the whole podcast now.
I didn't say a word.
So, they are teaching critical race theory in middle schools and high schools across the country. It is
they're not!
Yes, they
are!
are!
No, they're not!
Yes,
Jesus flipping Christ, I'm gonna hit you in the face!
You are fucking wrong.
No! Show me. Show me high schools that make it mandatory.
I have shown you. It just doesn't
the
matter.
thing. That's the thing. You show us a teacher. But
A teacher across multiple states in multiple school districts. California's got it on the books that they're teaching. It is not two. You are out of your fucking mind. You have...
You understand that Texas banned MLK.
They did not ban MLK.
Because he's
That
too
is not
woke.
what it said.
Texas said you had to teach the other side of the no fun party. There is no other side about the no fun party. There's one side and it's wrong.
You should be objective. You should teach no sides. Even
That
talking
is not
about
the
the
wording.
no fun party.
That is
Mr.
not the
Mustache
wording of
Man
the bill.
wasn't so bad to Texas.
That was one senator in Texas's opinion on the bill. The wording of the bill is if you're going to teach social issues, you have to teach both sides. If you're going to teach BLM, then you have to teach Police Lives Matter or the alternative theory. It is not meant to apply to the 1930s No Fun Party or Mustache Man. Okay? It is meant
Then
to
why is it in
apply
the bill?
to current... It's not in the bill. We went over the writing in the bill. It is not in the bill that when you teach about the 1930s No Fun Party, you got to teach about the good sides of them too.
Well,
Like,
when they asked him about it, then why did he say yes?
they asked one dude about it, and he was like,
Oh,
"That
the guy
could be
the
interpreted
man
this
who
way."
wrote the
Yeah, I was
bill.
gonna say, is the author of the bill though?
The man who wrote the bill.
I thought it
He
was a
said that-
woman that they had talked to.
No, that was a. No, I know what you're talking about, and that's the recording. But no, a congressman was asked, and this was probably like 6 weeks ago. This was after the recording of the woman, but he said, "No, the spirit of the bill is that on everything you're teaching both sides." And they said, "Even no fun party," and they said he didn't say yes, but he said, "On all cases, the spirit of the bill is to teach both sides."
Okay, so that's not a yes.
But that's a yes without saying a yes because he knows he can't say yes.
What is supposed to be from this? What is supposed to happen from this bill is if you're teaching modern social issues, you have to teach both sides of it. You can't just spout BLM propaganda and not cover the alternative point of view.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
what the other side is talking
no
about.
high school has got that far in history. You get to maybe 9/11, and that's about it in high school. And that's as far as most high schools get.
In history class.
Yeah.
What about a humanities
like
class?
current
Or
events?
Yeah, I never took current events.
But yeah, it's a fair question. I feel like.
Do they really? I don't know. I never took.
Yes,
I never
they
took
do.
current
I feel like
events.
classes have. Well, I have, and I will tell you that. Like, I feel like they were pretty balanced. Like it was mostly a discussion between.
But
students.
we also go to school here.
Yeah,
Not in California, not in Oregon or Washington
Okay.
or other
Oh, so,
very, very blue
so-
states.
so both sides are biased.
Yes,
Okay.
they're both biased to what they think is right. I just happen to agree with the more conservative point of view, and I happen to think that that is more correct.
Okay.
And again,
This is why progress can't happen, and this is why they don't care about the future generation.
I'm gonna get a beer before I commit a felony on camera.
Did you finish
So-
your one question about kids?
Which one?
I was just asking. Did you finish your query about kids?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it's selfish not to have kids. I think you can just live your life,
What
have fun.
What other societal obligations do we have? Because I think we do have societal obligations. First of all, I guess we should start there. Do we have societal obligations? You would say yes, right?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
I would say yes.
Well, I was basing it off the kids.
We're going to differ on what. I mean, clearly, we are going to differ on what these societal.
Yeah, I care about this earth.
obligations
He
are.
hope it burns. That's a joke. I think Garrett cares more. He's
he's a
guy.
There's a pattern in 30-year-old married men where they just like strangle their entire family.
I thought you were 40.
And then commit suicide. And I'm like this close to strangling at least part of my family.
I didn't even say anything.
I know.
But anyway, Nick, would you say we have societal obligations?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What are some of those?
I think taking care of the planet.
Okay.
Like that's a good. Like okay, so as a hunter and fisherman, like I donate as much as I can to our wildlife department to preserve the land that they have, and to buy possibly more public land. I mean, mostly because it is my passion. I do want to raise these animals to shoot them and eat them.
Well, we've talked about it before, but like sportsmen, like hunters, are the single greatest contributor to wildlife management.
Like the only reason like endangered species in Africa are even still alive is because of hunting.
Is because a select few very rich people hunt.
They spend $50,000 to shoot one rhino that's killed 5 other rhinos and can't even breed. They shoot it. And
well, that's more wildlife management in Africa. Like when you sign up, when you pay the $50,000 to kill like an elephant, they pick the elephant for you.
Yeah.
And they're going to pick an elderly male who is running off younger males who doesn't reproduce anymore.
Has probably destroyed villages, and all the meat.
Or is violent.
All the meat goes to villages, and then you spend extra money if you get the animal taxidermized. So if you want the head stuffed, that's extra money that you have to pay. One to get it taxidermized, and then one to bring it back in the state. That goes all back to the game wardens.
So, but to your like, I would agree with you that we have a responsibility to take the best care of this planet that we can. I do. Like I've said it before on this podcast.
Well, Garrett does believe in climate change-ish.
Yeah. I believe in climate change.
Climate change.
Like, and I will also, like, I will never tell you that green energy is not the future. Green energy is the future of energy, and if anyone else who tells you anything different is full of shit. Because it's going to be more cost efficient. Like, over time, it's going to get more cost efficient. It's going to get more efficient at storing and perpetuating the energy itself. Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, if part of your portfolio is not invested in green energy, this is not advice, but it probably should be. Okay? And I think that is good. I think that is a good thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of wind and solar, but I'm a huge fan of nuclear. I think when wind and solar when we finally get the battery technology to back up wind and solar and store the extra energy for the days when it's not sunny or windy, I think that's a pretty viable alternative. The problem with that is then you've got to have batteries, which strip mining and stuff is not ideal either. But I'm a big fan of geothermal energy for heating homes. I'm a big fan. Like, there's a ton of alternative resources that we can't replace gasoline. Like, we can't replace oil entirely with. But we can replace a lot of what we use oil for and other fossil fuels. So, like, natural gas. Natural gas is a lot cleaner than oil.
So it's not even just energy for me. It's, like, waste. So you probably shouldn't be dumping in whatever.
Yeah, don't litter. Like, don't litter. Don't pollute waterways.
Like, don't be Flint, Michigan. Don't do a Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, don't do a Flint, Michigan, obviously. Don't, and really just take care of the planet. Like, we've only got the one.
For the love of Christ, do not release exotic animals into a different environment.
Yeah, don't just take your pythons and release them into the Everglades.
Florida, that's you.
That's you guys. Yeah.
Santas, get on that.
Yeah.
Put bounties out for snakes now, like we do hogs.
Good.
They should. I think they do.
No, they do. Like, they put bounties on hogs.
It's not going to matter, though.
And
they've already wiped out the Everglades. Like, 90% of mammal species
the American alligator is almost extinct.
Which is crazy.
Interesting.
And
okay, what other societal obligations do we have?
Oof. So, I guess the question, what would you define a societal obligation as?
Like something you're supposed to do as a duty for
the betterment of society?
Yeah.
So, just for the sake of this argument, are we trying to stick to, like, American society? Or are we going to, like, a global thing?
Yeah, we'll stick to America.
I do think having kids is a societal obligation.
I don't.
So why do I think it's a societal obligation? That way you can tell us why you don't think it is.
Okay, so why do you, Garrett? Why do you think it's societal obligation?
Because society requires new citizens. Like, it requires citizens.
But you can get that in other ways.
So you can get immigrants.
Like we have
But the problem is, like, you're gonna have to fully, what's the word, Wyatt?
Assimilate?
Integrate?
Yeah, integrate.
Yeah.
Both.
They're synonyms. Synonyms.
There you go.
I
Synonyms.
think you said cinnamons on purpose.
I don't know.
So
Cinnamon.
you have to integrate and assimilate them into society fully, into your culture. And America right now does not do that.
I think that's a very delicate thing, though, because I
also think it's full of shit. But
I think we do want to assimilate them, but we also want to keep some of their culturals intact. So, like, the great thing about America is we have so many cultures in here that it makes us it means anyone can live here and pretty much thrive. Like, I think we all like Mexican food.
Yeah.
We all like Chinese. I like Chinese food. Did anyone else?
it's alright.
Yeah.
Like, I like Asian cuisine. I like Italian. I like all this stuff. And
Not a big fan of Italian either.
I like the pizza de pasta. But so if we just totally, once an immigrant came here and scrapped everything, like, nope, you eat hamburgers, hot dogs, you keep all that stuff in your homeland. I feel like that would just make us generic, and we really wouldn't be the melting pot we are. There's no benefit of coming here. And us as we have a population deficit.
The benefit to coming to America was, one, in our greatest periods of immigration, we had a lot of resources that were untapped. So, like, you could come here from Germany or Ireland and you could buy a farm for little to nothing. And, like, in Europe, you're gonna, you don't even get to own the land. You know
if you were lucky, you got a land run.
But it's mostly a love of individual rights and individual freedoms that that's the shared idea that if you came to America, this is what you gotta believe in.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I would probably be okay. Like, so I'm not a big, like, we don't need to make sure that every Southern immigrant comes here and learns English. Like, I think they should learn English. Most things done in America are done in English. But you know what? Whatever. I can click 2 for English. It frustrates me, but I don't care. I think the big thing is you need to come here. When you come here, you need to understand these are the things we value. We value individual rights and individual freedoms over forcing our own opinions on other people.
I think that's how it used to be.
I think that's how it should be.
That's true. I think that's how it should be, but let's be honest, that's not how it's done.
I think that is the context in which assimilation should be done as a societal obligation. But I think when you have kids, they're raised in a society, and ideally they're raised with respect to those values, which is easier than having people immigrate and make sure they understand those. You know?
Well, you forget the immigrants can also have kids.
Huh?
Immigrants also have kids that
are raised. Statistically, immigrants have a lot more kids than
the other reason we have a population
citizens.
Increase. Without immigrants, we more people die than we have kids.
Yeah, it's because people on mass are not reproducing.
More people are dying quicker, which is sad.
I think the death rate has gotten, or not the average death age has gotten lower. For the first time, it was like the first time in 100 years during COVID.
Thanks, America. Healthcare.
COVID
Insulin's
isn't real.
for
Well, no, it's actually.
I don't know how that's possible. COVID's not real.
Well, there was also, like, the opioid epidemic was causing a lot of suicides and stuff, and that drove down the maximum age too in America. So it's not a healthcare thing. Well, kind of a healthcare thing. They were prescribing a bunch of opioids, weren't they?
That they knew were highly addictive.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of stuff that they give you has suicidal thoughts as a... Like, antidepressant can make you more depressed and more suicidal.
It's because we don't really understand depression. Like,
well, everyone
even if you flood someone who's depressed with dopamine, they can still feel depressed. It's kind of a... I don't want to get into it.
But, like...
Okay, so what do you think is a societal obligation we have? We've covered Nick, kind of covered me.
It's a tough one. I would say voting.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Here in America, sorry. Should probably vote.
I don't think you're.
You should probably vote.
No.
I'm not gonna judge you if you don't vote. I just think it is an obligation to vote.
I don't. No. I don't feel like if I don't think a candidate represents me, I'm not gonna vote for him. Like, people, I've got this. It's like, well, you gotta smell. Which one of the turds smells nicer? It's like, well, I don't like crap in my face either way. Like, I'm not gonna eat the crap that smells nicer. I'm still eating crap.
I mean, so the thing is, with politicians, that's like, you're basically just saying you're never going to vote then.
Pretty much.
Well, so the thing is
Like,
that here's the thing. It's not that if you don't choose, you don't get crap in your face. It's that if you don't choose, you have no voice in which crap is in your face.
Right.
Which, you know.
I can still complain about it.
Well, yeah.
I guess. I mean,
You wouldn't be happy if I threw crap in your face and said, you didn't tell me not to.
it's like not mowing my lawn and then bitching because the grass is tall.
Yeah.
To me, is not voting and then bitching. Like,
No. It's
yes.
like, it's like, yeah, I see these two people that I just don't want to vote for this year, and then both of them, the winner just takes a crap in his hands, throws it in your face. You'd be like, well, it's your fault. I didn't expect that. Like, I would have had crap in my face if I even voted for the loser.
You gotta you just pick the one who more closely resembles you. But, like, again, you get this less stinky pile of crap in this
but neither do.
analogy.
But neither do it. They're both top 1% people who've never had to struggle half the time, except the one guy who had to struggle. They keep cucking out of the Democratic nomination.
I was gonna say, do you just want to say, like, let's vote in primaries? Like, I don't know. Our democracy is better if everyone votes. That's why.
It's gone fine without people.
The
voting.
more voices that show up.
Except it doesn't matter It doesn't matter who wins the popular vote.
But I'm saying, like, we get a more accurate representation.
Right.
Yeah. Except the popular vote doesn't always win. Meaning you can be the most popular person. Like 10 million people could vote for you to be president.
Well, there's only one way to change that,
and they won't.
And that's through voting.
You have to be popular across different states.
Like 4.
Well, right now.
Right now. Ever. It's just been different states.
Yeah, the Electoral College benefit when we were just 13 guys just going, hey. Now we're 50 and we're like, heck. Let's keep the system.
We'll have to do an Electoral College episode.
Apparently. Other societal obligations.
I really didn't think this was going to turn onto a just shitting on conservatives podcast, but Nick has successfully made it that.
I can keep going.
I'm sure you can.
Can you really? What else?
Well, we can talk about school shootings. That hasn't happened in a while. But we're not going to get into that. Gun control. By no means, I don't think we should restrict all guns.
You were joking, right?
Yes, I'm no god, yes.
No, I was talking to him.
Did he just... On what?
On wanting him to keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll stop.
Oh, you're exhausting.
I would say we probably have a duty not to kill people.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have a duty in society to follow the laws of society, too. You have a duty to pay your taxes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
You hate taxes.
I do hate taxes.
I hate taxes.
But I still pay them.
Yeah.
Under the threat of you go to jail.
No.
Like, billionaire doesn't pay taxes, he's fine. We don't pay taxes, we go to federal prison.
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying. Like how many people would pay taxes if it wasn't illegal?
Like, Jeff Bezos gets away with it, but
That's fair.
I think that's what.
Like, Gary, if I'm like 2 cents off my federal taxes, I can go to jail for tax fraud. Jeff Bezos just donates one painting, and boom, no taxes.
There's actually a little put your tinfoil hats on real quick, but there's actually a
You ain't got no tinfoil.
That was funny.
Yeah.
We need tinfoil in here.
But you got there's a conspiracy that the art industry is actually just a money laundering scheme for rich people to get out of their.
Where like because they'll take they'll take one brush of paint on a painting. That's $10 million. Just so happens how
the
much
value of art is entirely subjective.
They'll get
So
one.
you can buy a painting for $10,000, then donate it to a museum for $10 million, and it's all
because
tax.
both the museum and
So
you
it's
get
just
the tax break.
Right. So it's a money laundering scheme for rich people to basically not pay their income taxes.
For sure, rich people do actually do that.
They had a monkey outbid 2 Picasso paintings. The monkey's painting was worth more than 2 Picasso.
Again, it's because art.
And
is
people ask why
subjective.
an art degree is worthless.
So an art degree is either worthless or worth a fortune. There is no in between. It is either you can sell
Also,
$5 paintings.
I think as a society, more or less, we should drop college classes that never benefit. So if you get a degree that clearly is not going to help you, like I get a degree, and then I'm working a minimum wage job for the rest of my life because there's nothing that degree helps me in. I think that's pretty scummy that the college is promoting that degree.
Well,
for the most part, I would agree.
I think you're misunderstanding the point of college. The point of college isn't to prepare you for a job; it's to educate you, you dumbass.
But education for its own sake.
Yeah, why can't you learn something just to learn something?
So you can, but you can do that for free.
Yeah, like it's called
not as good.
I disagree. Yeah. I've learned way more on my own than I have in college. You know how many times I got...
Well, that sounds like your own fault.
No.
Like, yeah, I'm not going to know physics as well, but...
Yeah.
So there are certain classes you definitely... Like, you could be a doctor, you definitely got to go to college. Because...
Yeah, but they make you
I found out you just taught yourself surgical procedures, I'm not coming to you.
Right before you get knocked out, and it's like, welcome to our TED Talk on how to do brain surgery.
Yeah. No,
But, so how many classes did you have to take to get your major that benefit your major none? Like, you had to take...
I think that's more what he's getting at, is how many useless classes did you have to take that have no
like, how much time can
to
be...
your degree?
Like, doctors in India take 4 years to get their doctor, where it takes us 8. Yeah. And they learn the same stuff.
The colleges are just milking you, is what he's saying.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, if you can think of... So, like, being a doctor in India is sort of like trade schools here. Like, So, like, whenever you go to, like, a trade school here, they teach you, like, just plumbing.
Yeah.
Or just welding. Well, there's a way to do that, and it's a trade school, or, really for most of whatever you're going to do, you just study the regular stuff. Now, if you want to be, like, a history teacher or a heart surgeon or whatever, you're going to have to just go to regular college. And that's just kind of part of it.
Yeah, but... Again...
If you're going to be a heart surgeon, do you really need to know trigonometry?
Well, that was a bad one. I'm just going to switch that to humanities. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, alright. I figured a less related.
Or if you're a history teacher, do you need to know calculus?
I mean, probably. My history professors would tell you no. So, for most of...
So the answer would be no, then.
No.
I mean, these are actual college professors.
The only time geometry comes into history is when you're looking at JFK's assassination.
It's not like you gotta...
Boom.
It's not like you gotta do well in those classes. Like, you just gotta pass.
But if you didn't have... You shouldn't have to worry about passing that class. You shouldn't be worried. You shouldn't have to take the class. It's just the college milking you as much as they can.
But you become smarter as an individual... Because these other classes
not in your
test your intelligence. Like, they challenge you to more critically think because you're not as passionate about it. It's not as something you easily grasp, right?
So I guess this is a fundamental difference in what we think college is for. So if it's college is to prepare you for a job, then NICS for sure makes more sense. If you're going to be a history teacher, why are you taking calculus? Right. You're not going to teach calculus. That's stupid.
Right.
You are like, well, college is to educate yourself broadly and to prepare you for a career, or is it just to educate yourself?
Well, I mean,
broadly?
No, it's not just to educate you broadly. Like, so that's what your major is. It's a specialization degree, right?
But why do you need all the...
Another issue that your system doesn't account for is that the whole point, the reason you have a general education, like, prerequisite, is because if you didn't know, everyone switches majors. Most people switch majors more than once.
Yeah.
The whole point of the general education is to give you a pool, so that way when you inevitably do probably not like what you're doing, you at least have some grounding idea. So it's not like you're taking
But I would say that
physics.
your general education came from high school.
Well, the high school education sucks.
That's not true.
That's pretty true.
That's
No.
pretty true.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think high school education is more than adequate. I'm not a big college guy, though. I think
Yeah.
college at this point is,
Debt?
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a bunch of debt
Yeah, that's true.
that you can't fault on?
But it's not, first of all, and it's not like if you're, I don't know, say going to be a heart surgeon, it's not like you have to take, like, history level 4,000, you know, whatever. Like, you're going to be taking, like, American History 101, where George Washington crossed to Delaware, and, you know, like, you're going to have to know who the first fucking president of the United States
think
All
that-
those shit like you learned in high school.
Yeah.
like it's not like, and it's just going to challenge you to have a baseline.
It just sounds like you're
history.
slogging through a bunch of crap
That you've already been through.
just to get to maybe a staircase.
Well, let's find out you don't like heart surgery, and let's say you found out you liked learning about stuff that our American founding fathers did, and you'd like to learn more about it. And you'd actually like to grow up and teach on that. Well, that's what the point of... But you wouldn't have known that because you hated it in high school because your history teacher was a football coach who just played fucking The Patriot by Mel Gibson.
Yo, that's actually really accurate because that's all we did.
That's,
in our
that's a
American-
problem with teachers, not a problem with the system, though.
Yeah, like I
What do you
loved
mean, the
I
system
loved
in-
I
or,
loved history, and I had shit history teachers. Hell, my junior year, I slept through history, and still knew more than most everyone else. But I just liked history.
Even in your scenario, they're milking you for your indecisiveness. Like,
Is it for indecisiveness, or is it more like a safety net?
I don't think it's more of a safety net. Because
I
again,
think
like
they're
your
money
first
grubbers.
2 years
But
in
this
college
predates-
are primarily your high school
But
reading.
that doesn't make any sense because the general education, like, predates whenever, like, colleges were stupid expensive. Like, when college was even, like, really cheap.
and now college knows.
But that was also before high schools.
that was before it was mandatory. You go and get an like you had to go to
Yeah,
school.
that's so.
I don't know. Colleges have been pretty cheap until, like, the 60s,
you know why they're not
70s,
cheap
till really till Vietnam.
You know why they're not cheap anymore? They realize they can milk you.
But what they found out is that they can milk the federal government.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's for sure what they found out.
Yeah.
We went off in the weeds from kids to fucking college.
Yep.
All right.
Wrapping up thoughts on societal obligations and children. And go!
Pay your taxes.
Don't have kids.
Wow. That was worse than mine.
Yeah.
If you're responsible, please have kids.
Pay your taxes. Do have children, please.
Don't have kids.
And, just be a good person. That's probably your biggest societal obligation, is just be a decent person.
And if you don't have to have kids, do it. Good on you. You're not selfish.
Go Ukraine.
Yes, go Ukraine.